Hello! This video is for the WSU Classroom Use Visualization and includes a discussion of the data processing if it were to be done in JMP. Okay, let's go ahead and get started then. Before we talk about the procedures in JMP, let's talk about what I need to get from JMP. So here is the visualization that I would like to create. You can see that I have the days of the week across the bottom and the time slots as the various rows in the visualization here. They are going from 8 o'clock in the morning through 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The rows are split out into half-hour time slots. The reason I decided to do half-hour time slots instead of 1-hour time slots is that, for example, on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, our classes tend to be 1-hour slots, but on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they tend to be 1.5-hour slots. So to make the visualization work a little easier, I've decided to break those out into half-hour time slots for each day. We also have that broken into the days, so I have columns certainly in this visualization along with the rows that identify the different times. The time rows are going to be identified from row 1 through row 16 in my data processing steps. Obviously, I have the 5 days of the week here. I do want to check to make sure I exclude any days, or excuse me, any classes that are on a Saturday or Sunday. So what has to happen is I need to, for each row in my database, determine whether or not it belongs in a particular row-day combination. So does this class here, Monday at 10 o'clock, does that take up a classroom on Mondays at 8 o'clock? It does not. It starts here at 10 o'clock. So I should have something that indicates that it in row 5 and row 6 for Mondays that I need to, or excuse me, that classroom is being used. And this happens to be Gildemeister 155. In a different spot in the database, I have Wednesday and also Friday. So these are on different rows. So what my processing has to do is just simply create a tally, or I'm going to use a 1 or a 0, just an indicator, I guess, to identify whether or not this class is being used during this time slot. And I need to go through all 16 of these for the 5 days of the week, and then I need to do that for all classes. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I created a kind of a data processing checkoff list for us. So let's go ahead and consider this. The first thing I need to do is filter out the final exams. So final exams are included in this data set, so I'm going to need to get rid of those. So inside of JMP here, I have opened the WSU Classroom Use CSV file. We can see that on the screen here. And I can see I have final exams listed here. And I don't want to worry about trying to work the final exams into my visualization. The reason is those are in 2-hour time slots, not my typical classroom time slots. So how do I get rid of the final exams? I'm going to do that under rows, row selection, and then select where. Here I'm going to say the instructor does not equal, and then I want to type in final exam exactly like it is in the data set. So instructor does not equal final exam. And when I click OK here, it's going to select a bunch of the rows for me. Okay, so it has selected 242 rows. All of these are rows for which the final exam is not occurring. So now I want to go tables subset and pull that subset of selected rows out. I want selected rows here. And this is going to create a new table that has 242 rows in it. And those 242 rows are just simply the ones where it was not a final exam slot. So I can get rid of this table now just to save some confusion here. And I want to work with this one. Okay, so let's look at my data processing thing. I've checked that one off. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I want to make sure I don't have any Saturdays in my data set. So an easy way to do that would be to just do a summary based on day of week. And that'll check to see if I have any Saturdays, and I don't. So I can check that one off from my checklist. I don't have to worry about Saturdays. Now I want to create two new fields for start time and end time. So let's bring our data back here. And I want to create two new fields, one called start time and another called end time. And what I'm going to have to do to get these is pull apart the information that is included in the time variable here. So I'm going to use what's called a left function to pull off the first 4 characters. That'll be the start time for me. And then the end time will be the last 4 characters in that column. So I need to use a formula here. I'm going to right click and say formula. Underneath the character set of functions, there's a function called left here. Okay. I want to take the left 4 digits out of the time variable. So the way that's going to read is left time. That's the variable that I want to work with. It's that column right there. And I want the first 4 digits or characters. If I say apply here, that should pull that off, and it does. You can see 1000 here, or 10 o'clock. That's pulling that off there. I need to do the same for the end time. So I'm going to say formula, and I'm going to do, it's again a character function, and I want to use right this time. It works the same, right of time. I want 4 characters, the right 4 characters, and that'll give me the end time there. The last thing that I'm going to want to do here is filter out anything that is before 8 a.m. or after 4:30 p.m. I can do that with a sorting and selecting. The other way that I could do that is under summary. Let me start with start time and just make sure start times are at 8 o'clock and they go through at 3:30. Okay, so that is okay. I don't have anything past 4 o'clock. How about my end time now? Let's do a summary of end time. And here you can see that I have a couple of classes that go to 4:20, and then I have one that actually goes to 4:50. So I want to exclude those 4. So what I'm going to do here is just highlight the first 11 rows here, which again is going to select there everything that ends before 4 o'clock. Okay, so now so I selected it here from my summary table, but over here I'm going to say tables subset, and I want to pull the selected rows. So there should be 238 rows that get pulled out. I only have 4 rows that I had classroom space that went beyond that 4 o'clock time slot. So say OK here, and here you can see I have my 238 that I need. All right, finally, I'm getting close here. I want to create one more variable called merge ID, which I'm going to use when I do the merge. And that's simply going to be a column of 1s. So I can put 1 in that cell and just say fill to the end of the table, and that'll put 1s all the way down for me. Okay, this is my classroom data that is ready to go. So I'm going to say save this, and I want to use that just classroom. Call that classroom data. Okay, so that should take care of the first table. I got the new fields. I made sure to stay between the 8 and 4, and then created a field for the join, which is a 1 there, and save that thing. Okay, so now I want to create a time slot table, which I did that ahead of time just to save time here. And that time slot data looks like the following. Let me just grab it and pull it into the screen here. So here's what the time slot data looks like. It just has a row ID for the 16 rows. It has a label for the times. So here's the labels that I will use. And then it also has that merge ID as well. I saved this as, again, another jump table, which I called time slots. Okay. So now I'm ready to do the merge. So I have that done. Now I'm ready to do the actual merge of those two tables. And I'm going to want to be doing a full join. So I'll show you how that is done. And then once that's completed, I'll be able to obtain my summaries. So doing the full join here, I'm going to use my classroom data. Let's go ahead and start with that, which is the bigger data set. 238 rows in that data set. I'm going to go under Tables, Join. And what I want to do is join the classroom data with the time slot data. Okay, so here I'm saying classroom data with the time slot data. These columns that I'm going to use for the merging are the two merge IDs. So I want to select both of those. Okay, those are going to be what I match on. Finally, in order to do a full join, and what that means is I want all combinations of the rows in both tables. Okay, so I'm going to select Include Non-Matches on both the main table and the with table. That's going to give me a full outer join here. This is a left outer join. This would be a right outer join, but I want a full outer join. So I want to specify that there. So Include Non-Matches has to be selected in Jump under the main table and the with table. Also, I need to identify what column is being used to do the merge. Okay, this table now is the one that I'm going to use to create my summaries. Notice that this table has many, many, many rows in it, many more than the number of classrooms. And that is because if we look at this, we can see that Stat 210, which was that first row in my original data set, now is blown out to include 16 different rows. The reason it is blown out to 16 different rows is because of the different time labels that I need. Okay. So this table has many more rows than what I started with. I can clean some of these up. I don't need that merge ID anymore. I don't need this one merge ID anymore. What I want to do is create that tally or that count. Okay, so back here I needed to do an indicator of whether or not this classroom was being used at this particular day and time. And I need to do that for all days and all the different times and all the different classes. So I'm going to create a new column here. Let's just call this count, I guess. And this is going to do, what I need to do is just check to see if this is the first row, is this classroom being used in that first row, and it's not. This is 8 o'clock in the morning. This class goes from 10 to 10:50. So I should end up with an indicator here because the classroom is being used on Mondays at 10 o'clock. This classroom is also being used at Mondays at 10:30. So what I'm going to do is just create a simple if statement to check whether or not this time label is after or at or after the start time, and is it also at and below the end time. And that'll indicate whether or not that classroom is being used. So let's go ahead and do another formula here. This is going to be a conditional formula, so it's going to have an if in it. I also am going to do an and because I have two conditions. I'm also going to do a comparison. Is the time label greater than or equal to the start time? And I'm going to run into an issue here. I can see that, and that is that start time here is actually a number. The time label is actually a number, whereas the start time and end time are character strings. They're left justified here. So I'm going to need to change the data type here to numeric continuous for the start time and also the end time in order for that if statement to work. Numerical continuous for both of those. Now I can go back in and create my if statement. So I want to do a conditional. I also had an and statement in there, and I'm doing a comparison. I want to check whether or not the time label is bigger than or equal to the start time. Start time, there it is. I also want to check if the time label is less than or equal to the end time. So I'm doing time label here, less than or equal to the end time. So that's an AND statement with two conditions. If that's all true, I'm going to give that a 1. Otherwise, I'm going to give that a 0. Let's apply that, check it. Again, I said that this class is being used at the 10 to 10:50 slot, and I can see that I have correctly identified those with a 1. All the rest of those for that particular day, for that classroom, are set at 0 there. All right, finally, now I can do my table summary. I want day of week listed here, and then I also want my time label. And then what I need to do is actually sum up the count. So I'll get a total there for that. So now you can see this, all of this data here is for Monday. This is for the 8 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. And here are my counts that'll be used to make the viz. So you can see that I have 5599. Notice at noon on Mondays, okay, there's not any classrooms being used in Gildemeister Hall noon on Mondays. That's 0 there. Also from 3 to 4 in the afternoons, I don't have any classrooms. So if I go back and check that on my visualization, hopefully that's what I had on my viz. I did. Mondays at noon is all white here. And late in the afternoon is also all white. The darker the color here, the more intensity of the use. So the most common one looks like it's Mondays at 12 to 1. Yeah. Or is it 1 to 2? Looks like it's 1 to 2, my bad. So 1 to 2 on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and also 1 to 2 on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays here look pretty, 11 to 12 look busy as well. They're the darker reds there. So these summaries that I get then inside of JMP can be used to create this visualization. Okay, I think that does it then for this video. Thank you. Have a good day.